There are a lot of sheep on the screen. There's Billy, and there's Freddie, and there's Sally, and there's Bobby. The sheep all look the same to you, I think. You could study them very well and learn to distinguish among them. They look different, they smell different, they taste different. But to us, humans, pretty much one sheep is more or less like all the others. Now that's definitely not true, however, of the sheep themselves. They recognize each other. They focus on their differences. They know that they're all sheep, but they can recognize their mother, and they can recognize their rival. They can recognize their friend who they get into trouble with a lot. They can learn to recognize a potential mate. We know this because there was a study done about 12 years ago or so by a professor at Cambridge called Keith Kendrick. He's now at a university in China. And Dr. Kendrick, he did this study on sheep, and he found, I won't give you the details, but he found that the sheep could recognize as many as 50 of their flock mates, each individual sheep. And the 50 is just the maximum number he tested. Probably they could recognize a lot more than that. And not only that, they could remember the recognized faces for 2 years. And again, that's a minimum because that's when he stopped studying them. The point here is that to us humans, the sheep are all the same, but yet there are distinct differences among the sheep that the sheep use in their own social lives. Okay, so the point is, are the sheep different or are they the same? Let's turn to humans now. Everyone's different, right? My students tell me that all the time, and whenever they tell me that, I get a little agitated. But here's some evidence that everyone is, in fact, different. There was a poll done of, the results here shown a poll of females. What is their favorite color? And, well, you can see the results. There's 10 different colors, and almost a quarter of the women preferred blue. And so, well, there we go. Everyone's different, right? We all have different favorite colors. I like pizza, you like hamburgers, etc. However, notice that for the 23% of the women whose favorite color was blue, they're the same. We're going to look at this same question now from a different perspective, and I hope you don't mind, but sorry, we went one ahead there. I wanted to first show you that if we look across species, and that is between humans and chimpanzees, if we look at their genetic identity, or another way to say that is their genetic differences, we find that they're 98.5% identical to us. Okay, so that's between two species. We'll try this again. Let me go to the next point. If we look among humans, and again, we're looking at genetic similarity or genetic difference, whichever you prefer, all humans are 99.5 minimum identical. And so if you look to the person next to you, and you look into his or her cells, you'll find almost the same thing that you find in your own cells. Okay, so there's the point here is that although we look different and we act different and we have different favorite colors, we have a lot of similarity. You all know that. Oh. Well, since I have the slide there, I just want to be careful. If there are any chimps here, I don't want you to be insulted or anything by the similarity to humans. Well, let's look at this from another perspective as well, because, you know, mister, thank you for the biology lesson, but we really don't care about that because we're talking about real life here, aren't we? Let's talk about real life. Musical taste. Now, I did a little survey at my school among students that were age 14 to 16, and there were a number of questions, actually statements on the survey, and the students had to agree or disagree. And here's an example of one of them, and do you enjoy listening to Justin Bieber music? And you can see that, you know, it wasn't quite 50-50, but there's a lot of difference here. Some students do, and some students don't, and there's no clear, you know, absolute majority there, or let's say overwhelming majority there. However, if I ask the question a different way, this is really the same question, just asked slightly differently. Do you like music? Then almost, well, 91% anyway, agreed with that. I was a little surprised, in fact, that it wasn't 100%, but, you know, I don't know, I don't know my students that well, maybe. The point here is, if we look at detailed characteristics, like which artist is your favorite, we're going to find differences among people. But if we look at more general characteristics of the same nature, do you like music? Do you like art? We're all the same. Now, I asked myself, we have this overwhelming, almost obsession with searching out the differences among us. We'll come back to that in a minute, but I asked myself, why is that so? And this is a question that's been asked by biologists anyway for a long time. It's been asked by lots of other people too, philosophers. And I have an example here, not in humans, of this is a male peacock and a female peahen. They're the same species, even though they have two different names. And what's going on here? Well, the male peacock is displaying his tail, and that's kind of like showing off to the female. He's saying, look at my wonderful colors, and it's shimmering in the sunlight here, and wouldn't you like to go on a date with me? And this is a little bit like what our male students do at the International School of Florence. The female peahen, she's acting very similarly to the females at the school where I teach, more or less ignoring him. Well, that's what it looks like. However, she's not ignoring him. She's paying very careful attention. She's remembering the last peacock she saw, and she's comparing the colors of that peacock's tail with this one. And she's comparing the motions of that peacock with this one. She's looking for the differences among the various peacocks that she's seen that day or that week, because she has to make a very important decision. Who am I going to marry? And that's a really important decision for peahens, as it is for humans. And this is the answer to the question, by the way, or at least it's one of the answers to the question, why do we pay so much attention to the differences amongst us? We pay attention to the differences among us because those differences are going to help us make decisions about who is our friend, who is our enemy, who can I trust, who do I want to marry and have children with. And of course, those are very important aspects of our lives. If we focus on the fact that, this one has two eyes also, that's not going to help us very much in making those decisions. Now, I want to help us to imagine, or let's say graphically visualize our differences and our similarities. And so I want you to, I'm going to help you do this by, there's a circle, which I thought about you put up before I did. There we go. There's a circle, and this circle contains in it all of your characteristics. Now, you're very wonderful. You play a wonderful saxophone, and you used to be a good soccer player, and you have a beautiful wife and children, and all of your characteristics, your enzymes, your biochemistry, your blood type, your shoe size, your taste in whatever it is you care about, all of your characteristics are in that circle. Humbling. They're all there. Okay? Now, how many of those characteristics are unique to you? Or I should say, what proportion of those characteristics do you think are unique to you? And if the slide came up, I want to suggest, now these are only a small fraction of your characteristics, and they may not even be yours, but only a small fraction of your characteristics are different from the ones of the person sitting next to you. Okay? The vast majority of your characteristics you hold in common with the person you're sitting next to, everyone else in this room, and every other human being on Earth. We just don't realize it because we focus so much on the differences. I'm going to help us to compare our characteristics, our similarities, and our differences by giving you a quiz in the next slide, which is I'm going to ask you, well, which of these three images do you think now, after listening to my talk, or most of it anyway, characterizes the comparison between one person's characteristics and another person's? You get a gold star if you pick the bottom one, okay? At least if you followed my talk and you agree with even just a little bit of it. Thank you, sir. Why does this matter? Why is it important that we think about what it means to be different and what it means to be the same? And I'm going to bring in another topic here, which is the fact, I think it's a fact, that what is natural is not necessarily good. Health food, the salesmen of health foods will not necessarily agree with that statement, but I'm going to make it anyway, and I'm going to see if I can convince you that it's at least partially true. Parasites are perfectly natural. Anyone here want parasites? No. Parasites aren't good. Earthquakes, floods, famine, those are all natural occurrences. Acts of God, they're natural. Sexism, treating women unfairly or men unfairly because of the sex of the person. That's a natural thing, actually. There are natural reasons why we, let's say, should do that. We don't accept those. We don't accept parasites. We don't accept natural disasters. We don't accept sexism. For parasites, we try to take medicines. Against natural disasters, we do relief efforts and other activities against those. And against sexism, we have education. So what is natural is not necessarily good. And I'm going to extend this to my point today. Our tendency to focus on differences is not necessarily good for us. And in fact, I'm going to say it's horribly tragic. Let me just review what I've said. I said that our differences far outweigh our similarities far outweigh our differences. I don't know if you agree with that statement. This fixation or obsession with differences actually prevents us from noticing the similarities that we do have amongst each other. And I also said that this tendency for us to notice differences over similarities is as a result of natural selection. We're selected to do that, just like the peacock and the peahen. This natural tendency, in many cases, is not very good, and it results in really unpleasant or tragic circumstances. By focusing on differences, we get the Holocaust. By focusing on differences, we get bad treatment of refugees. By focusing on differences, we get unwillingness to help others in need. They're just like us. So at the close of my talk, I just want us to reflect on this, and I'd like the next time you, whether you're a student of mine or not, and you want to respond to a challenge from your teacher or your friend, and that challenge, and you respond in such a way to say that, well, we're all different, think about it before you say it. Thank you very much.